Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
The Dead of Winter Horror Network and Nick King from the 508 Productions invite you to endure the most terrifying immersive experience in all of podcasting. Beneath the Red Umbrella, now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Beneath the Red Umbrella, when the snow falls, the killing season begins.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our spooky pals out there? In today's episode, we'll be discussing all things paranormal and spirit mechanics with Raymond Newsome of Newsome Paranormal. Raymond is an investigator, oracle card reader, and sensitive. He's studying to be a metaphysician and energetic alchemist. Welcome to the show, Raymond.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I got all of that right.
I mean, it is a mouthful, but I have friends that practice Reiki, and you name it, they practice it. We're a whole situation. We really are. And I'm one of the biggest situations in the situation, so they fed me. They can't get rid of me.
Situation or paranormal party? I'm going to go with paranormal party.
The answer is yes.
Yes. So Newsome Paranormal. I'm assuming you founded the paranormal group for it to be named Newsome Paranormal.
I did. I actually started out helping out with another group and ran their Kentucky branch. And at some point we were like, okay, with everything that I have going on, I need to go my own direction because I'm not agreeing with everything that you are doing. So it went from being that branch to being Newsome Paranormal. And here I am still, and I keep investigating.
Now, how long have you been in the paranormal investigation world?
Investigating wise, since probably about 2010 is when I first started. There was a break in there, but about 2010 is when I started. Spiritual stuff,
What got you into?
I've seen things since I was a kid. I would get weird feelings walking into buildings I'd never been. It was only certain ones. I would walk through the threshold, and I would get really dizzy. And then there'd be the images that I'd pick up from the building without touching anything. And it just kind of progressed from there.
I have a question. Did you ever, as a kid, like obviously kids watch movies, right? They connect to their experiences to movies. At least I did. Was there anything that you experienced that you could relate to any kind of movie? Or like for me, like Poltergeist, right? I think of Poltergeist, I think about stuff that happens. And does that feel like, do you connect with that at all? Or is there anything that what connected you to those things? Like how did you deal with that as a kid?
Honestly, I never got scared of it. I grew up watching horror movies anyway. So, it takes a lot to scare me. And it happens so much that after a while, it's just second nature. You don't think about it. It's like, oh, cool, I'm getting this, but I have no one to tell. So, I kept most of it to myself. But I was like, all right, awesome. I just would go on. But from there, it just kind of progressed. I started having dreams to where I was predicting things, weeks to months before it would happen. And even further ahead, there are still things that pop up. I'm like, wait, that was in a dream. Cool. And it's been a whole process.
When did you start realizing that your dreams were actually coming true?
The most definitive one, I was 16, and I had a dream of being inside a building full of people, and looking out the window, and there was a creek out there, and it's very, very detailed, the way the rocks were, the way the water moved, everything. And about 6 months later, we went to visit my aunt and uncle for Easter. So, Easter weekend, you go to church. I'm sitting in this church, and I look out the window, and right there's that creek. The rocks are exactly the same place. The water's moving the same exact way. Everything's the same. I was like, oh, now I know where I was in that dream. Okay.
What caused you to go from having paranormal experiences to taking the reins and saying, I'm going to be a paranormal investigator?
2008, I had open heart surgery. And with a surgery like that, everything intensifies. And when you're that close to death, like I was, because I almost died more than once in the process, and you start seeing apparitions walk through your house and turn into the kitchen, and you think it's your mother, and you turn the corner and she's sitting on the couch, or you see a tall shadow walking across the lawn, come up to the corner of the house and vanish. You start to want to learn more and start finding ways to get evidence of what you're seeing. Because if I just tell somebody, oh, well, you're just nuts, I am, but that's beside the point. I'm not making this up. From there, I was like, all right, how do I get this evidence? Get way down the line from past the first time I started investigating to 2021. I was in Galveston, Texas for a family vacation, and we went to the Bishop Palace. If you've never heard of it, it's a very old house. It's been there since the late 1800s or so, and it's one of the very few houses that remain that survived a huge hurricane that hit that area. The family that owned it passed away. The Catholic Church bought it, and the local bishop lived there. I'm touring this house. I'm taking pictures because old architecture. I'm like, hell yeah, might as well. And I take a picture of a mirror. I catch weird things in mirrors all the time. You take pictures. What's that standing behind me? Cool. The colors swirled, and off to the side of the mirror was a figure wearing a hat, a suit. You can see his eyes, you can see his beard outline, and you can see his legs. And that's about it. And none of the other pictures turned out that way. And a matter of months later, I was at Bobby Mackey's for the first time. And the rest is history. I haven't turned back since.
Have you ever had an experience that just like terrified you? Or have you been able to kind of mostly stay even keeled as you go on investigations?
I'm usually pretty chill throughout investigations. Nothing really scares me that much. If I'm asking something to take and talk to me or to give me proof that they're there, there's no reason to react negatively when they respond. If I'm talking and I get a disembodied voice, I get excited. I'm like, what the hell? It's excitement. I was at Madison Seminary in Ohio one time, and there's a scream that came from down the hallway. And I was like, did you just hear that? And it was excitement. I don't get scared. It's just I'm so always so honored whenever they actually interact, even if it's something like that, or light up this cat ball for me, and it lights up. If I ask a question, walk closer to this device and light it up. And when it happens, it's just a very thankful moment.
What kind of experiences are you looking to have? Like, are there any experiences that you maybe haven't had, or maybe something that you're looking to get out of it? And what is your intention when you go into these places and you're talking to these spirits?
My intention is I'm there to collect evidence and to collect stories. I always say hello, thank you for allowing me in your space. My name is Raymond. I'm here with, and I tell them who I'm here with. And I say, I'm here to collect your story. so I hope that you'll talk to me. And the majority of the time they do. It's one, I show the respect, and two, I am genuinely interested in what they have to say. Tell me what happened to you in your life. If you're reliving a moment, tell me what's happening. This is usually the stuff that I'm looking for.
Do you think they connect with you better than maybe other people because of your gifts, or is it is it that also with the respect that you're giving?
Honestly, I think it's more of the respect because when I investigate, I don't use my gifts. I'm focused on my equipment and I'm focused on the conversation that I'm having. I, because I don't want to interfere with my own equipment. I don't want to take and push something in one direction when it's not actually happening. So if I'm focusing on the equipment and just focusing on the conversation that I'm having, there's no space for my gifts at that time. Those are for a whole different situation and a whole different time compared to when I'm investigating. Because at that point, I'm right there and I'm focused on who I'm talking to.
Now, what exactly is Spirit Mechanix?
Spirit Mechanix is a team that is out of Lexington, Kentucky. They formed about 10 years ago by a man named Steve Smith, his wife Tiff, Brian Gibson, and Chris Davis. And Spirit Mechanix is basically a team that is completely full of sensitive people. They're mediums, they're psychics, they're sensitives, energetic alchemists, Reiki healers, you name it, they do it. And honestly, it was created to be a safe space for people that didn't have someone to talk to about their experiences. They do house cleansings, they do investigations, and they're one of Amy Allen's teams from the Dead Files.
So, how are you involved with Spirit Mechanix? I know that came up, and how what is your association with them?
I became associated with them a couple years ago. Whenever I went to Bobby Mackey's, it was a public event, and the group that was running it at the time had a gentleman working for them named Jeff Matt. He has his own team and stuff, but he also works with the mechanics as well. We hit it off after he got to see a few things that I could do at that event. We had somebody that was attacked, and I kind of put the thing in its place. After investigating with me for a while, he was like, "You really need to meet these people. You really need to meet these people. I'm telling you, you really need to meet these people." Okay, I'll go meet them. I started following them, and I'd jump into their lives that they do every week. And they said that they were opening a new shop in Lexington. All right, cool. They had a day that was before the opening and stuff where they're just there for a meet and greet. Whoever wanted to hang out could come hang out. I showed up and hung out for like 3 or 4 hours. It's just me, Steve, and another member, Dustin Miles. We're just there hanging out, and we were discussing experiences on cases in life and stuff. And eventually it became a conversation about music. Hey, what do you think about this band? Do you like this band? And it was seriously just that. It was, discussing different bands and stuff. And at one point, Steve and I stepped out to smoke, and he looked at me. He said, "Would you like to become a member?" He said, "Mind you, there's a 2-year probation period, but would you like to become a member?" Yeah, I would. And then they fed me, and they've been stuck with me since.
That's how it goes. If you feed
It
me, you're
is.
stuck with me.
I mean, I'm a simple person. You give me food, that's the end of it. I'm your friend for life.
So, you read oracle cards. How long have you been doing that? How'd you get into that?
I started reading cards probably about 10 years ago, but the oracle cards I just got into the last year, and it was just kind of a progression from what I was learning already, and it gave me a focal point. So when I do readings, I'm focusing on the cards without being too invasive to the person that I'm reading. Because after that, everything is just intuition. I just have the cards there as a focal tool.
So you do oracle cards, but do you also do tarot? And why oracle? Like, why did you choose that over tarot, or do you do tarot?
I dabble with tarot, but the way tarot is set up, it's so direct, and you have to know so much about the card depending on which deck you have. Oracle cards are more open. You literally have an image and like maybe a small phrase or a word. And at that point, it's more of an intuitive read instead of focusing just on the cards by themselves. At that point, I'm just trusting what I'm getting instead of compared to what's completely on the cards. I can have the same cards for 5 people, and I'll get 5 different readings from them.
Do you have a specific theme for your oracle cards? Because I know, like, I bought one of my friends. It was like a David Bowie themed tarot deck, which is amazing. But I don't know if that matters to you, or if it matters to anyone. Like, as long as you're able to read it, right? Is that the point of it?
I mean, sometimes, but usually the decks that I have are decks that have called to me. You feel a connection to your decks whenever you read with them. I have like 3 or 4 that I mainly focus on, and depending on who I'm reading and stuff, I lay them out. Pick your deck, and I give them time and let them pick which deck they want me to use. That typically already gives me an idea of which direction we're going through with the reading. I have one deck, I call it my mean deck, is the Dark Mirror Oracle deck, and it's literally, here's the shit that you're lying to yourself about. I apologize for the language. So here's the stuff that you need to work on, that you need to finally admit to yourself. And it gets raw. So that's why I call it the main deck. I've been cussed over it a few times.
So you don't have to apologize for swearing. We are not a filtered podcast. You can swear, make jokes, whatever you want to do. Uh,
That is
so
dangerous.
bring the danger. We like it.
Okay.
You should hear some of the jokes I make. Uh,
Same.
I like that you started off with allowing them to choose the deck that calls to them. I think that's really interesting because I've never heard anybody that does that. Usually they've got a deck they supply and then you go forth from there. But the fact that you are connecting in that way, that's really awesome. It sounds like your readings and how you read and pull the cards is completely intuitive. So did you have to do any kind of research before utilizing the cards, or are you purely like intuition driven here?
It's purely intuition driven. I have one deck of cards that didn't come with the book, and I don't even look up to see what the artist and the creator of the cards actually want them to mean, because that's not how I read them. And like I said, I can pull the same cards for 5 people, and they'll be completely different readings.
If there is something that's come up before is intuition, right? Like listening to your intuition with past guests that we've had on. And for you, is there a specific way that you channel your intuition, or is there something that's unique to you that's like, oh, the hairs, on my back of my neck raise when I get my intuition? Like, what is your spidey sense?
Um, that's a funny way to put it. Actually, the way I work is most people are intuition over instinct. The way mine works is instinct and then intuition. My instinct picks up on something before I focus in on what it is and let the intuition pick up the rest of it. It's like, oh, something's different. I can tell the different change in the flow of energy, the change in the atmosphere in the room. Something's different, and then I take and pick up what that difference is. So it actually is. I guess you would say it's kind of like a spidey sense, but not quite.
Do you feel your intuition, like, because I guess we've never really gotten into this, but when it comes to knowing something, like this is, for a fact it's your intuition leading, it's driving. Is there somewhere you feel that specifically, like within yourself, that this is my intuition?
All the time. You know, it's kind of one of the things that pushes me forward throughout the day. You'll I'm one of those people, I will be sitting there completely chill, and even though I know I have something to do that day, I'll sit there and I'll relax, and then you'll see me get up and just walk straight out the door. I had to go to the college because I started back to college recently, and I just jumped straight up, went out the door, and left, and went straight through without having to deal with hardly any traffic, no traffic lights, nothing, just straight to the building without you know, any issues. And it was all, I already knew which way to go. Here I go. And I went.
You said you follow your intuition, like going back to school, and congratulations, by the way. What about, has that applied to your gifts? So, like, have you had intuition, like, I need to pick up, I need to learn oracle cards. I need to learn how to, manifest this. Like, has that applied in pursuing any of your metaphysical gifts?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's face it, a lot of my spirit guides know how I work. So it's literally kick in the ass most of the time. You're trying to ignore us, and we're not going to let you. So smack, get moving, boy. Okay, I'm going. I apologize.
Has there ever been a time where, through whether it be your intuition or your spirit guides, where you've ever come to a point where you've reached the conclusion that a gift no longer serves you and you need to let it go?
No, if it seems to plateau and stuff, that means I need to focus on something else for a while. It's not letting it go, it's letting it take and sit where it's supposed to while I work on something new.
Oh, I like that.
And then whenever it's like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go, all right, let's keep going. Sometimes that pause is growth as well as, actually growing.
Ooh, look at you dropping some knowledge. I'm going to write that on a card. The pause is also growth.
It is.
That's awesome. Have you ever felt your intuition like for me it's only happened once and it was scary, where it was a spidey sense moment, like where I felt like, if you see something out of your corner of your eye, like if somebody throws something at you, you like freak out and then you move out of the way or something. Like I felt that once in a haunted place where it just bad energy and like anxiety and just like I need to get out of here kind of situation. Do you feel that a lot on your when you go to the different places?
Not really, but I'm not usually somebody they try to mess with. I've had one try to bum rush me once from behind. And I was like, all right, you need to stop now because everything always everything operates on the rules of boundaries. If it's a hard no, it has to stop. It doesn't matter what kind of entity it is, angelic, demonic, ghost, you name it. If you put a hard boundary, no, it has to listen.
Have you ever encountered what you feel is the demonic?
There's a lot of gray whenever it comes to conversations like that, but running into an actual demonic is usually very, very slim to nil. This one happened to be hiding inside of a team member who decided to lock it inside of himself, and we had to remove it at an event. That was an interesting experience because I got to play me, and guess who it was focused on? Me. Like full on grab me by the arm. I need someone else to be my host now. I was like, no, fuck you. You can stay where you're at because you're coming out regardless.
Now, I've never been in an experience like that. So for me, my first question is, how do you get something like that out, especially when your teammate is wanting to hold on to it?
No, he wanted it out.
Oh, he wanted it out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought
No, he came to
I
us to get
misunderstood
it
that.
out. No, the thing was after me at that point. Um, but he wanted it out and it didn't want to leave. And the fun thing about the way we work is you can't possess a body that can't breathe. And considering he trusted the people that was working with him and stuff, we could basically make him not be able to breathe to the point we can yank it out.
So how does that work? Like, aren't you gonna pass out and like? I mean, it can get dangerous, right? At that point, like,
He almost did. He almost did. And that's why the senior member took the lead on that, and I was playing meat. Steve was the one that was leading it. He's been doing this stuff for over 30 years, and he's 40. So he's been doing it since he was a kid. He's very accomplished at what he does, and I would trust him to do the same to me, honestly. But yeah, energetically, he can make it to where you cannot breathe.
So this wasn't like a physical thing where you guys were making this guy not breathe. This was more of an energetic pause.
Yeah, it was purely energetic. He energetically reached in and grabbed his lungs to where he couldn't breathe and then yanked.
Okay.
Mind you, it was in a room with a small divider with an entire small like event, like a spiritual conference happening right next door. This is where we do this at. Okay, cool. We're going.
Lots of activity on the other side.
so I want to know is where do I get tickets for this? Is this something that anybody can watch, or I guess that you have to be part of the group, right?
This is usually stuff that we do in private. You know, there's a reason I'm not using names and stuff as far as the people that were doing it, other than Steve, who I talked about already. And that's to protect privacy. Um, because where we do a lot of home cases as well, you know, I can reference what state I was in and stuff, but I'll never say who was there and this and that beyond that. I can tell you, you know, yeah, I got cussed. Yeah, this one got scratched. I have pictures. Yeah, the TV in the guest room was glowing when nobody was in the guest room and the TV was unplugged. I got pictures of that too, by the way. But I won't use names because privacy is a thing. People have a right to their private lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on paranormal investigations, is there any specific equipment that you really like using in these investigations?
Um, yeah, I like my audio and video, so you know I have a bunch of cameras set up, voice recorders laying around. Um, I use two spirit boxes, especially when we do Estes, because I'll turn them both on at the same time while one has one plugged in, the other one's running out at the same time, so we can try to match up what they're saying with what's coming out of the spirit box. Kind of a two for catch there. Cat balls, I like my trigger objects. You know, anything that we can get to catch their attention. Hey, this lights up, poke it. You know,
Yeah.
and static vortex domes are some my other favorites because what's great about those is most equipment does not interfere with them with the way they work. And so when you get a response, unless you actually hit it and jar it to where it'll take and accidentally come on, it's bound to be something interacting with it.
Could you I don't know if you can tell us which spirit boxes you use, because I'm always on the lookout for, like, because there's so many apps, there's so many different things you can use. um I just don't know which one, you know, is the best, right? Like which one's phony, which one, like, I don't know if you would recommend any.
Oh, I still use the PSB7s. Those are the ones I use. You know, those are the ones I'm used to. And the way I make them work is it's almost like a SB11 because I'll set one going in one direction and I'll set the other going the other direction. But as far as apps go, I usually don't use them.
Because I feel like especially with you with your gifts, you probably don't need a ton of equipment to sense things. It's more to record it, right? It's more just to get the evidence.
Yeah.
So do you have a lot of evidence on your phones? Is that how you like? What's the best tool that you've used that you've caught the most evidence on? Is it like cameras or is it more audio, like EVP type stuff?
It's a bit of both. One of my favorite catches was at Bobby Mackey's back last November. Steve Smith and myself, we were the only ones in the building at the time. We were up in Carl's apartment, and we were talking to the thing like likes to hang out up there. You know, most people say it gets scared. The month before, we were playing poker with it downstairs, and Steve asked it a question: "Would you like me to shut the door?" Audibly caught on camera across the room. The camera was across the room. It picked it up of it saying no. Like the voice was right here, like right behind me, right beside my head, saying no. And then I've caught some really cool things with like EVPs and stuff too.
Have you ever been touched by a ghost? Yeah. Have you ever been slapped or pinched or
I've been
bit?
slapped, I've been hit, and I've been scratched. I don't think I've ever been hit, bit, or pinched. I know I've had the scratch marks and stuff where I've actually physically been scratched.
Have you been bitten by a ghost, BJ?
And where?
I've never been bitten, but a friend of mine, she said she got bit by a ghost at the Las Vegas haunted museum.
And now I want to go.
She got bit by something there.
I already wanted to go. I like to get bit.
Yeah.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Okay, John, we can make that happen for you. I don't know about Vegas, but we can get you.
Sometimes.
And where do you want the ghost to bite you?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. No answer. No response. I better stop because I'll get in trouble.
Just a nibble on the nipple, bud. No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now the conversation is exciting.
That would be, I mean, how do you react to something like that, to be honest? Like, let's say you get bit in the nipple.
That's when you say the other one feels left out. You got to even this out.
Like, there's nothing around. You know what a bite,
right?
You say thank you.
Don't be shy now.
Yes, madam.
I don't know. I do believe in ghost sex, though. Isn't that a thing? Do you believe in ghost sex? Of course you do. Because, well, I think about it because, Dan Aykroyd, he talks about it. He's talked about, like, how, he's had sexual encounters with ghosts.
What drugs were involved?
Is he crazy or is there some merit?
I mean, I've never experienced that, but, what happens on the astral plane and stuff is a whole different story.
Have you ever gone to a place and, I mean, obviously you've done research on, the spirits that are there and all of that. Have you ever gone to a place and been like, this is what I'm going to wear because this is maybe what they wore at that time, or playing music for them from the time period or anything like that? Have you ever tried to connect with them that way based on, what was going on when they were alive? Or does that matter, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I roll into a bar and I act like I'm at a bar and I have fun like I'm at a bar, and that's another way they connect with me. If I'm at an opera house where, they do musicals and have like dance performances and this and that and stuff, or, there's going to be music and or dancing involved. We did the Ross Opera House in May for Global Ghost Hunt. Spirit Mechanix did. We had somebody actually doing the chicken dance on stage for the entertainment of the spirits. When you walk into a location, it's just understanding what kind of building you're in. At that point, you have an idea of what kind of spirits you're going to run into. You walk into a prison and try to act like Billy Badass and stuff, something's going to come at you because you're going to remind them of a guard and they're going to beat your ass. There are certain things you just don't do.
So how does one behave in what used to be a brothel then?
Let me get my wallet out. Hey, we're paying customers. Who's here?
Be careful what you ask for.
Now we're back to ghost sex.
Always back to ghost sex.
But if it gets damn good evidence, who am I to argue?
Question. how do you? So you don't seem like the type that would antagonize to get evidence, right? Is there are there any things that you would do specifically to get that evidence? I mean, obviously, a lot of everybody asks questions, but is there anything unique to your guys' group or anything like that? That obviously the chicken dance thing, but is there anything else that has gotten a lot of results?
I mean, we've sang as well in places. Sometimes there's one place I went to with somebody I don't investigate with anymore. It was the founder of Renfrew Valley, which in Kentucky is a huge place for like country music and bluegrass and stuff. And I played country music in the building. You know, I understood where I was at. I understood who lived there. If I want to connect, this is the music that they're going to relate to. And I went for older music like Hank Williams and individuals like that would catch his attention.
Yeah, I like that. I've done that myself in a couple of places as well. Um, like the monastery. I actually brought my violin and I played my violin for the spirits and got some pretty good content back. But I think that's a good thing, right? Like to try to do other things rather than just ask questions, right? Because I'm sure
Yeah,
all of these haunted places they get that all of the time and they don't want to answer questions, maybe they want to just be entertained or have something a different kind of energy there, right? Like in music is its own language, and so it's just another way to connect with them with a different kind of vibration, right?
that's literally it. It's just rolling in and saying, "All right, we're going to have a good time." And sometimes the best audio evidence you'll catch is when you're just sitting around just joking and not really paying attention. You're just having a good time. And where you're having a good time, they're having a good time, and they're like, "Hey, let's hang out with these people because they seem cool and fun."
Yeah, that is actually what happened at the monastery. We were playing songs and everything, and um, I was going through my list, and I asked the person next to me. I was like, do you guys have any requests?" And the spirit box, and perfectly clear, says, "Play something." Like it was so crazy. I was like, "Oh,
As you
okay,
wish. Here we go.
whatever." So it wasn't even like directed towards them, but it was just like, and that was awesome. Like I love that when you get surprised by something that wasn't even supposed to be towards them, right? Have you had those experiences?
Yeah, it's always fun to be sitting around and having a conversation, and then all of a sudden you'll hear something. You know, oh hey, how are you today? And I literally look at him and say, "How are you doing today? You having a good day? Has it been a good week? It's been a while since I've been here. How are things going?" And I ask questions like that. It's just a regular conversation. I sit around and shoot the shit.
Why do you suppose so many of us, because we're all in this, we're all part of the paranormal world in some way. Why do you suppose we are so fascinated with getting to know spirits that we assume were most of them were once human versus taking that time to get to know people that are still alive? And that's not a judgment. I'm just curious why we have this fascination to get to know people, albeit they're not alive, over the people that are alive.
A lot of it is the majority of us had experiences at some point that they couldn't explain and no one else believed. And when you're in a box like that, you're like, how do I get out of the box? And at that point, you have the opportunity to take and go to these places to try to get new experiences, but catch them to where people can actually see and hear what has happened. And then it's harder to take and discredit, which there's always going to be people that you could have a full bodied apparition right there in front of your face and then say, no, that's not a ghost. But at that point, you've come with the best evidence you have to take and help back what you saw when you were younger.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people for me personally, like talking to regular people, it's for me, it gives me more anxiety than to talk to a ghost, right? Like for me, it's like it's just more comfortable to talk to entities that could or could not be there, and it's more exciting because if they say anything, then then it's great. It's like, oh, right on. If you get any kind of communication for me that it relates to what you're saying, I feel like that's what's a connection, right? Like I think that you're trying to connect with them in some way, and I think that for me, that's the most exciting part of it. Whereas people sometimes like they don't want to connect with you, like they don't want to talk to you, and it's just that's part of the anxiety. But and maybe it's the same with ghosts, but in that situation, you're not necessarily aware of it because if they don't say anything, maybe they're just not there. I don't know.
Do you think it's more exciting because they're almost like harder to get?
I think I would trust a spirit more than I would most actual people. There's so many people that try to be something that they're not anymore, and a lot of times they'll take whatever they need from you, and then you're no longer relevant. And at that point, it's easier to trust someone that's no longer alive.
Have you ever had a ghost try to trick you in that? Play devil's advocate there. Have you ever had one that maybe was acting like something but was totally something different?
I mean, they can try, it just doesn't work. Eventually, the story always comes out if you take and investigate long enough.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I mean, we're assuming that most of the spirits we're interacting with were once human, and we were told by a guest once that how they were as a human is pretty much how they're going to be as a spirit. So I feel like if they weren't trustworthy as a human, they probably aren't very trustworthy as a spirit. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
I mean, an asshole's going to be an asshole no matter what. So,
Yeah, I feel like I've the people that I've talked to that have run into like bad spirits. That's what it was. Like it's more just their asserting their dominance or whatever over the situation because that's what they did in life. And so if they were just like a aggressive asshole in
toxic
life,
masculinity, let's go.
there was a lot more toxic masculinity, 100 years ago. I mean, it's still around, but obviously it was maybe more prevalent or more in your face back then. And so maybe that's something that just carries over in the afterlife. And, people who talk to them, they get scared by that, right? Like, it's like, wait, what the hell is this? Like, this thing is throwing books at
I
me.
mean,
Like,
some people deserve to have books thrown at them.
I mean, hard times create hard people.
have you ever had a one of your so have you ever had one of the paranormal investigators with you guys because you guys go as a group to these places? Have you ever had anybody just get so scared or just refuse to like go in? They'll just wait out in the car while you guys are doing your thing. Like, have you ever been had people like that at certain places?
No. No, most of us are like, um, one thing about the Spirit Mechanix is we're called spiritual bouncers. If it's not there to play nice, it's not going to stay there to play. And we've even locked things into mirrors and everything else until we were leaving, and then we unlock it again. It's like, all right, you're being a dick. You're going to stay right here until we leave.
How do you lock something in a mirror? Teach me your ways.
That's for a whole other conversation that wouldn't. Yeah, it would take too much time on here. There is an energetic process and stuff to where you can do it, though.
That's added to my list of things to research. And maybe that's why we get haunted mirrors and mirrors that people talk about that carry presences because something was locked in the mirror.
That or they're using it as a portal, yes.
Is that like one of those things? Do you believe that like do you have mirrors in your room? Do you keep mirrors out of your room for those reasons, or does it matter to you?
I just lock them or reverse the flow so they can't come through.
Is this something you have to continuously do to like protect your space? Or is it something you can do once and it just stays that way?
The way I do it, it usually is one and done. I can take and reverse the flow, and instead of being able to take and come out of it, it gets sucked into it and then it stuck until I decided to dispose of it.
That's crazy. I don't even know like how you would even where you would go to learn how to do something like that or to have the power to do something like that, right? Like I think about that. I'm like are you Constantine? Like what the heck? That's crazy. I mean I mean I just would like to be able to see it, you know.
I mean, my teacher is basically Constantine, so
It's what it's been sounding like. That's kind of what I've been gathering. And that's
that's literally his nickname.
I mean, the way he was talking about energetically stopping someone's breath, that sounded like Papa Midnight to me.
Yeah, it's a bit of both.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also like the club that you go into, right? It's only a certain amount of people. You have to read the card, know what's on it to prove that you have gifts to be able to get in, that kind of thing.
Now, Steve is one of those people that he can look at you and tell exactly what you can do and how it works for you. And then he'll put you in situations where you have to make it work the way he knows it works. It's trial by fire.
See, Papa Midnight.
That's awesome. I would love that because again, like sometimes you not everybody knows what their gifts are, right? Because they're not in tune with them yet or they're just not listening well enough or maybe they have a few different gifts and it's like which one is the most that's going to help them the most in their lives, right? Is that so? Is that something that you can reach out to him or yourself to find out?
Actually, they teach energetic classes. Um, he takes he does like mentorships and stuff as well. Actually, I can probably set up to where they come on to the podcast here if you guys would like that. We talk to Steve and himself and a couple of the others as well.
Heck yeah, bring me Papa Midnight.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to learn about the different gifts.
So, do you actually see them? Like, you see the paranormal spirits?
Um, if if I let myself, and I'll put it that way because I usually get more in my own way than anything else does. You know, I'm a very guarded person with a lot of that. Sometimes it's like I just don't want to be bothered. If I'm doing my day to day and stuff, I don't want some dude walking up to me, "Hey man, can you do you not see me standing in line here at Walmart? I can't talk to you right now, dude." So I usually, I block myself. It's just those moments where I'm like, okay, I can allow myself to be me, that I can usually see them.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty awkward. I mean, there's movies about that, you know, all over the place, but just dealing with spirits at the most inconvenient times, and especially when you're open like that, I'm sure it just becomes almost it's not scary anymore, right? It's just become more of a
It's a nuisance.
almost like an annoyance, right? Like, is that kind of what it is?
How did
Yeah.
you connect to your spirit team or identify your spirit team?
They've just always kind of been around.
So, kind of like the cards, the intuition, you've just always known they were there.
Yeah, one actually became a part of it when I was an infant because it was my great grandmother. In fact, my very first tarot deck is laying over there wrapped in one of her handkerchiefs that she had. And she's always there. She's always looking out for me. We go on adventures too, but that's a whole different story.
Now, do any of your spirit guide team members change, or has it been the same team of people kind of throughout your life?
It hasn't changed. Just become more apparent. Everything becomes more distinguished the more you connect with them. It's like, okay, now I can fully see your face. Now I can fully hear your voice. It's that kind of connection. At some points and stuff, they just seem more like shadows. And the more you connect with them, the more you grow into trust them, they grow into trust you more. The more you can tell, okay, this is their face shape, this is their voice. And it's that kind of thing.
Did you have to establish any boundaries with them early on about like when they talk to you, when they appear before you, and so forth?
A lot of it we do while I'm sleeping anyway in dreams. I travel a lot in my dreams. If you ever see me and stuff, I'm probably talking to somebody. It always happens. Um, I've had friends that looked at me and said, "I saw you in a dream, and I was walking through a door this direction, and you were talking to somebody walking the other direction, and I'm not even sure where we were at." I was like, "Yeah, that happens all the time. It's fine." What? Yeah, it's fine.
One thing I love about what you said is that you do connect through your dreams, and that's something that we definitely have experience with lucid dreaming and all that kind of thing. Is there a way? Do you find a tool or a way to intensify those dreams or to make them more lucid, or is there something that you have learned to help you with that?
It's just kind of, it's like astral traveling. It's just something it comes naturally, so I don't really have an answer to it beyond that. But I have learned that when I'm actually in the lucid dream state and stuff, I am in complete control of what happens. I can make I can make the environment change. I can make any aspect of that dream change that I want to. I can even force myself out of said dream if I need to. Okay, this is getting too intense. I'm waking up now, and I wake up.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
I've broken sleep paralysis, which they say is impossible.
By breaking it, what do you mean? Like just coming out of it? Because I mean, you eventually come out of it, right? Like,
No, I can force myself to move in that process. You wake up and you can't move your body and stuff. I can force my body to move.
okay.
All it takes is one movement, and then it breaks completely.
I can snap myself out of it, but I just end up with a massive headache.
It's it's not trying to snap yourself out, because when you try to do it completely just mentally, it will. The goal is to force your arm to swing across your body, because by moving just that arm, it's going to be dead weight. It's going to flop, but once you get it to swing over, the momentum wakes you up the rest of the way, and you're out of the paralysis.
I usually use breath work to get myself out of it. If I take enough deep breaths, it like wakes the rest of my body up. It's just more so the headache I get, I believe, from being in sleep paralysis itself, like disjointing ends up not being great for me. But 'tis the life of a lifelong sleep paralysis or paralysis. I don't know what it's called. Paralysis?
I understand, because I'm also an insomniac, so I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Same. I'm an insomniac too. Look at us.
I've heard if you're able to turn over in your sleep paralysis, that's when you can astral project as well. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I've heard that that could be
Energetically turn, not physically turn.
right. But when you know you're in it, right?
If I wanted to, I could sit right here and talk to you and still be in your house right now if I wanted to, if I had permission. I can, sit here and have a conversation and still ask.
Come on over.
Don't do that.
He said, don't do that. What? You said it. We're insomniacs. We'll have a good old time. We can put on scary movies. What's your favorite scary movie?
My favorite scary movie? Out of all the questions, that one's like, oh, there's so many. There's so many. At least it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen.
We could go with that one too.
What's the one you've seen the most recent that you like?
The one that I've seen most recently that I liked? Yeah. Late Night with the Devil was
That
really,
was a
really
good one. I liked that one.
That one was a pretty solid movie. Yeah. Abigail was fun.
I enjoyed that one as well.
I've seen a couple when I was a kid that actually disturbed me a little bit, but as far as actually scared me, no. And I've watched some terrible ones.
Which ones disturbed you?
Mind you, this was when I was a kid. Tales from the Dark Side, whenever the cat comes back up out of the dude's mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that one's enough to make somebody almost vomit.
Yeah. I was fearful for my life as a kid because my best friend's cat would always jump on my face in the middle of the night. And then I saw that movie, and then forever now it's a fear that a cat's going to jump in my mouth and choke me to death. And my friends just think it's hilarious.
Well, have you been naughty?
I was going to say, there's a joke in there that I really want to make, but I'm not going to, so...
Cat got your tongue?
Nothing like choking on pussy.
Ha!
Yeah, that's it.
You fit right in.
That's
And you're the one that invited me into your house. So.
Hey, you said I can astral project into your home while having a conversation with you. I was like, let's do it. Oh my gosh. Holy cow, this has been fun. But do we have any final thoughts before we start to wrap it up?
I just want to say appreciate you coming on despite, the technical difficulties we've had tonight. And I think it's fun. I think it would be a lot of fun to have more of the crew come on and maybe talk about the gifts and how we can manifest them, or any of that kind of stuff. Because I'm super curious as to where we would land on all that kind of stuff.
I want to meet Papa Midnight.
I mean, yeah. All you have to do is message me. I can help you get that set up.
Awesome.
We can make that work.
John, do you have any final thoughts?
No final thoughts from me, not tonight.
You're a quiet one.
Sometimes.
He's still thinking about the nipple nibbles.
He probably is. All right, Raymond, are there any projects you want to speak to, or anywhere? I'll walk that back. Or would you? I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this question. Are there any projects upcoming projects you want to talk about? Anything like that?
We are going to be at Scarefest in October. That's the Horror and Paranormal Convention in Lexington, Kentucky. That's one of the bigger events that we do each year, so that'll be fun. One of the new announcements that they just announced for the year is Clive Barker's going to be there, and I'm extremely stoked about that. And they usually have, the actors who played Leatherface and Jason and Michael Myers. They even have Tyler Bane and the girls that played in Rob Zombie's Halloween there. Last year they had the Terrifier 2 cast. I know a lot of the Scream cast is coming this year. And that's honestly the biggest announcement that I have going on right now.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I see some Fright Night people there too, and people know that I love me some Fright Night. That's one of my top 3 favorite movies. So don't be surprised if I show up. Where can people find more about you if they want to connect to you? Are you open to people connecting to you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Of course, Newsome Paranormal is on Facebook, on YouTube, TikTok. You connect with me through any of those. My personal page. You can even reach me through the Spirit Mechanix pages. The Spirit Mechanix Facebook. They have a website, spiritmechanix.com. And I'm sure we'll tell you more about that whenever we come on the show together. But I'm reachable.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It's been really fun, even including the technical difficulties. If it's not exciting, then why are we doing it? So right. We really appreciate you coming on. All right, John Thomas, you want to bring us home?
Yes, I do. Thank you again, Raymond, for coming on. Again, like everybody said, it's been a blast for sure. And thank you to everybody for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast. With your host, I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Segura.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss crazy freaking moments like this.
Also, don't forget to check out 3hauntedpodcast.com, where you'll find all of our past and current season episodes, as well as guest information, and all kinds of awesome merch.
Until next time.
What's up, guys? This is James D. Lamond.
And I'm Dan Bouchard.
And we're here from the Dead of Winter Horror Network, and it came from the 508 Productions to invite you to come check out our horror culture podcast, Culture Shock.
That's right, the Dead of Winter Horror Network, where you can witness our crazy antics on Culture Shock every Friday morning, where we dissect the culture of shock.